My name is Anya and I am from Rexburg, Idaho. I have one child and one on the way, and I breastfed my daughter for I think around 10 months before I stopped. Before I started breastfeeding, I just thought that you just put the baby up, they start to breastfeed, lickety split, no problems. But the reality of breastfeeding is very different from what I thought. It was hard, it was stressful. I didn't produce very much milk in the beginning. I was very stressed in the beginning. Like later I read that if you're stressed that you don't produce as much. At the very beginning I wasn't doing, they're like, you need to breastfeed every 2 hours, but I was like, hey, if she's asleep and she's okay, I'm gonna sleep too, is because I'm exhausted. I didn't know that would really affect your breast milk supply by not. Like, it is so important in the beginning to breastfeed every 2 hours to help that supply build up. A little bit about my birth experience. It was hell. I was 10 days overdue. The midwife told me that the longer the baby stayed inside, the higher chance I had of having a stillborn. I was a wreck. I didn't sleep very much the night before. We went in early in the morning. They broke my water. I was on Pitocin all day. And then at midnight, we ended up having the midwife came in and she's like, you can push now. And we pushed for about 2.5 hours and still no baby. Then she's like, well, would you like us to call the doctor and get him in here and have him use this section? I was like, yes. When her head is almost out, we have to push her back inside and have an emergency C-section. She came out at 3:30 in the morning about. Well, after that, I still couldn't sleep. And then finally, they had her all cleaned up and they brought her into me and I was able to breastfeed for the first time. And it was just a beautiful experience. Like, it was just me and her. I was just amazed that she just kind of latched on. She just kind of did it. Beforehand, I didn't do anything to prepare. I just felt like, it's just natural. You produce enough milk, it's easy, but that is definitely not what it turns out to be. So I struggled in the beginning, but I really, really wanted to make breastfeeding work. I had my sister-in-law, she also had her baby 3 days later after I had Bella, and she produced a lot of milk and she ended up pumping a lot in the beginning, and she pumped way too much, and she would give me her excess. So I would nurse Bella, I would pump myself to see if I could try to get my breast milk up, but I didn't start pumping until 1.5, 2 weeks after I had Bella. So by then my milk supply had kind of already been established, and so it was really, really hard to try to increase my breast milk supply. In the beginning I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna give my daughter my sister-in-law's breast milk. She's like, here, have some breast milk. And I was like, okay. And then I gave it to my daughter, and it was just wonderful to see her finally satisfied. We were able to have like a lactation lady kind of talk to me and coach me a little bit, and she's like, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we just pump exclusively, and you just give her your milk, and and let's see if we can get your breast milk supply up by just pumping. I feel like it was bad advice is because your body and the baby's body and that saliva, there's hormones and chemicals and reactions going on there that will help your body produce more breast milk. And the pump doesn't do that. Anything that I would like to tell moms, breastfeed. The times that I was with Bella and we were breastfeeding, and even if it was with the supplement system, it was so nice to just have her attached to me. There was a time where I was reading this literature and they told me to give her the supplement before you breastfeed. Like, just give her enough to just kind of tide her and then put her to the breast. And so when she finishes, she is satisfied at the breast. When I would feed her a little bit before, don't give her the supplement after. I'd feed her a little bit before, and then she would be relaxed and she would still be attached. And we would just have that time together and cuddle. That was my favorite. I remember before I ever got pregnant, I was like, oh, breastfeeding is kind of weird. I was like, I am not breastfeeding. But then when the time comes and you're just like, it's such a beautiful thing. And some days I was like, do you know what? I may not be producing a whole lot of breast milk, but just having her attached to me and that bonding, that's what I wanted.